And that's not right. You actually create better connection if you set standards and set boundaries and then keep them in love and firmness. So it's not don't, it's do. They have to have it. In this day, they have to have those boundaries for them to develop self-worth. So if they just get to do and they float along and there's nothing and you accept everything and nothing's right or wrong, they have no identity. No wonder they're stressed and have depression. So we have to create boundaries. We have to help them with those boundaries, and we have to keep that connection. So this week, I want you to practice listening. And this is how I want you to do it. Because it's so hard to say, okay, I'll just listen. I don't want you to stand there and go, okay, no, tell me more. If you haven't already got that connection, they don't have anything to say. They'll say, they come home from school and say, how was school? Fine. Well, is that all? Yeah, it was fine. They take off. You know your connection's not great. So you gotta work a little bit on it. So this is what I want you to practice this week, is I want you to practice questions. Questions to me are a spiritual gift. If you can ask good questions, I think it's a spiritual gift, and I think you need to pray for it. Pray for the ability to ask good questions. So, they come home from school, and you say, well, how was school today? Fine. You do not allow them to get by with that. So you say, oh, well, who did you sit with for lunch? Sally. You did? Is she in any of your classes? Yeah. What class is she in? Do you sit by her in class? What's your favorite class today? What did you do in that class? You see, you've got to ask questions that are not yes or no. You got to ask a question that invites them to share. Then, after you have invited them to share, because we want them to not be influenced by the perfection they see always on their screen. Of course, we're going to cut out screens a lot. But anyway, with that, you need to share with them. They want to see parents having hard days. They want to see a parent having a hard time. They want to know what you do when you have a hard time. So you can say, and I have said this to my kids before, I says, do you know what I did today? And they'll say, what? I said, I mopped that floor. And it's shiny. And I feel really, really good about it. So what you've done is given them permission to validate themselves. It's okay for them to say, I did really well. I feel good. I feel good about that job. Or I can say, you know what? I threw away that whole batch of bread. It was horrid. It didn't rise. It was like having bricks, baking bricks. You know, so that they know you have good and you have bad. But if you're willing to open up and share, then they feel more safe. Feel safer in being able to open up and share. So that's one of your homework assignments. I want you to ask questions this week.
I think this was something I learned in this class. I can't remember for sure, but one of the things that's helped me a lot, I always have a hard time, you know, we were getting the yes, no's, and so after school, like while if we get to sit down for dinner, and sometimes it's just in passing, there's two questions, well, we have a few, but the main ones are, what was the best part of your day today? So then, and they can go, and you know, it started really slow, and they had to think really hard, and then I'll say, tell me something that was really hard for you today, or that made you sad, or, you know, not to be depressing, but so that they can share a hard thing, and I can share too. And then the last one we've kind of thrown in is tell me a way you were able to help someone today.
Perfect.
And it's been really, my kids, you know, and they'll say, Mom, what was the best part of your day today? You know, and it's really, it's just been a good, when you can't think of a question, that's a really good open-ended, like,
Okay, now,
share.
Bryn's taken this class a couple times.
A million.
A few. Anyway, how long have you been doing that?
Like the asking questions?
Yeah.
Oh, probably just this last year.
Yeah. Did you hear her? It wasn't yesterday.
No.
It wasn't just last week. It was, I've been doing this for a year. Bryn, have you done it every single day for a year?
No.
See how real she can be? Yeah, but is it still has impact.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this
Yeah.
class. If you, like that, and that's what I pray before I come here. Like, help me know what little piece to take away today that I can put in my family, because there's so much, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But if there's just one tiny, like asking a question every day to your kids, like what was the best part of your day, like that can start to change your family in just little bits.
Okay, now, the other thing this is perfect, because taking those 3 questions, the first day she asked them, do you think they came up with profound answers? I go, what are you talking about, Mom? You never asked us that before. I don't know what the good part was. I don't know what the bad part was. I didn't help anybody. But now, if they know that you are going to ask that every night, now they're going to go through their day looking for the answer that they want to give you that night. They will look for ways to serve someone, even if it's just so they have something to say when they come home, which is okay in the beginning. That's okay. But do you see how asking those 3 questions changes things from being externally acted upon to being internally? That make sense? You're still externally asking the questions, but you're asking about internal stuff. You're not just telling them what. Does that make sense? So when you do this over a process of time, then it begins to create that internal on them, where they will actually seek to serve people every day, not because they're going to be asked, but because that's who they're becoming. Does that make sense? So that's your homework. Do I expect that you'll do it every day? No. Do I expect they'll answer it every day? I think they really will think you're crazy the first day you do it. So what I would do is tonight at dinner, say, you know what? And you don't have to say I learned in class. You don't have to say that part. All you say is, you know what? I had an idea today. Let's just start this as part of dinner. Now some of you will say, well, we don't have dinner together very often, as we're always going this event or that event or that event or that event. You can do it in the car. You can do it at bedtime. I would prefer, if you can do it at a different time than bedtime, that you pick a different time. Because where you can ask those questions one-on-one at bedtime at their bed, which is better than not asking at all, it's really good for them to hear each other. That bonds family. So if you can do it at a time where the whole family's together, that's better. Good, better, best. So if you can't, asking them just one-on-one at their bed is good. But it's better when they can learn to hear another sibling's problem without making fun of it, with learning to have empathy, with learning to listen without offering suggestion unless that person is in a mood to hear suggestion. Does that make sense? So that is one of your homeworks. That's one of your homeworks. Yes, please.
So I have 2 kiddos, and they're different than each other. I mean, right, every kid's
They
different.
should be.
My daughter will come home and she will happily share everything about her day. My son, it's the 1-word answer. So for him, it's always, tell me 3 things that you did at school today. Or tell me, so that way I know what's going on so that I can then ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my daughter gives it to me freely, him, I gotta pull it out. So,
Yeah.
I think I think it's definitely different how you approach it.
Absolutely.
Also.
Now, and I'm glad you said that, because you see how with her daughter, the connections are easily made. The daughter wants, at this age, the daughter wants him and is seeking him. He's a little bit more reticent. Which child do you need to really reach out to? The son. Yeah, you need to create that connection. Even when the connection's made, some children will be more verbal than others. That's the wonderful part of individuality. But because a child is quiet and seems to be at peace and isn't giving you any grief, that's really a child you should reach for and work to be close to. Not just be, one of them's good, I'm going to go to the other one. It requires so much more. You must. That child needs you as much as the one that's always in trouble. So there's no exceptions. It just takes a lot of work. Okay, there's just one more thing that I want to cover today, and that is, as part of creating this environment in your home, you need to have routines. Children need structure. They need to have a plan for the day. They need to know in your home when you're going to get up, when you're going to have breakfast. They need to know, am I supposed to have my clothes on before breakfast? They need to know that. It shouldn't be something that is a thorn in your side that you're yelling at them every morning for. It needs to be, and when we talk about work, I'll teach you how to get them motivated to do it without even telling them. They'll just learn how to do it. So, but there needs to be structure. There needs to be a time in the home where you do jobs. There needs to be a time in the home where you play. That you have a playtime together. And there definitely needs to be a large portion of time where there's no media. Where all phones are docked. All phones, moms and dads and kids. All phones are docked. And all media is turned off. There needs to be a time for bed. And there needs to be a routine for the time for bed. That they know that we brush our teeth, and then we say family prayer, then we have a story. I'm not telling you what to do for your routine. You can do it. But there needs to be a routine so that you're not just saying, okay, go get in bed. They need to feel that love, that bonding, that it warms them, it connects them when your family has routine in daily life. It gives them security. Now, that routine needs to be in place even on weekends. Now, it can change. You can have a Saturday schedule, but it still needs to be not just free-for-all. It still needs to be, there's a time that we as a family are going to work together. There's a time that we as a family are going to play together. There's a time where you get to have free time. And you need to work in free time. Imagination time. Not media time. Imagination time for children. They desperately need that. So when they're not doing a job, it doesn't mean they get to be on a screen. Yes, Jenny.
I got a question
Yeah.
here, because I need advice on this. What about when they're at grandparents' house?
Okay.
Because when I travel to home a lot with, and I see my in-laws and my kids love grandma and grandpa, and they'd rather be with grandma and grandpa. And when it's time for bed, no, it's a huge bed.
Yeah.
So how can you help me figure out? a
Since
little
I'm grandma?
Yeah, cool.
I think that what you really need to do is have a talk with the grandparents and say, this is really important to me that the kids go to bed on time. I'm so glad they're here. I'm so glad they get to have fun with you. I'm so grateful. But they're so crabby when they don't get their sleep. So it's important that would you support me in helping me get them to bed on time, just so that they can be happy tomorrow and have fun with you. So you're soliciting help, you're not condemning. And I think that most of us grandmas would be pretty good with that.
But grandpas are a little bit questionable.
Grandpas are a world of their own. Yes, they are. But if you will go to them with that kind of an approach, then you usually, now when it comes to giving them sweets, not always, we'll probably just still do that, but we probably will work with you on bedtime. Particularly if you say, would you mind reading them the bedtime story? Then so you're pulling them in to help you do what you need to do. The other thing is, these are the daily kinds of routines. You also need to have in your home, and this is really important with this iGeneration, you need to have what I call rites of passage. There is nothing in society that is helping our children grow up. Like I said, this iGeneration wants to retain childhood way into adolescence. And so you need to create things, a few, and a very few, because whatever you decide on needs to be in concrete. Just like baptism at 8, it needs to be a sure thing. You need to decide what it is. But it marks passage through childhood into adulthood. And so there need to be a few, now they don't have to be big things. They will become big things to your children. For example, one of the things that I did was, when is a child old enough to not take a nap? And it's not when they just stop sleeping. Because then, nap may not be the correct word to use. We just say quiet time. You get to have quiet time. Which means you can go sit on your bed and read a book or do what you like to do, but you're staying in your room for that period of time, and we're not having socialization. So when is that age? And it doesn't matter, but that's just an example. When do you start doing your own laundry? When are you in charge of all of your own laundry? Now, I'm not doing it anymore. What age? What age can a girl get her ears pierced? Does it matter? No. It does not matter. But if you set that as a standard in your home, then that's something they really look forward to. Well, can I hardly wait. I've got 3 more months until I get my ears pierced. It becomes something that says I'm growing up. And so there need to be a few of those rites of passage. Getting a driver's license used to be one, but kids today don't want to drive. They don't care. If you'll take them, they don't care. So we'll talk about how to do that a little different.
Well, I was gonna say, I think as parents, you can do a lot to combat, that type of attitude.
Absolutely.
Like, even if their kids, if their friends don't care, you can show excitement around that and around cars, and we're obsessed
We'll
with cars
send
in
them
our
to your
family.
husband. He'll teach you about cars.
And we talk a lot about what car you can have when you're in high school.
Yes.
Which, are you gonna fix one up? Are you gonna buy one new? Are you gonna save up for it? Are you, we talk about driving, and, when we're somewhere safe, we'll let him kind of,
Yes.
enjoy sitting on the passenger side, you know what I mean? Like, there's excitement around that, and so he is aware of the responsibility.
Did you just hear what Lindsay taught you? Did you just hear what she really taught you? Not what she said, but what she taught you. I've been telling you what this generation is like. The whole goal is to parent so our children are not that. But that takes intentional parenting. And that's exactly right, Lindsay. We create that environment, that enthusiasm, where we want them to be responsible, where we want them to take initiative, where we're going to teach them how to work. Well, nobody else has to work. Well, guess what? Everybody else has a phone. Well, sorry. We're going to give you a flip phone when you're in high school. So this is parenting. So the whole key is to parent so that the trends don't affect our family. Okay? There's one other thing that I wanted to share with you before we close today, and that is in this book. This one that I was sharing with you. There's something that I just wanted to read to you. Maybe I think I marked it. Remember that we just talked about having the proclamation to the world on family. As you have gone through the scriptures, and if you've listened to the prophets, what are one of the signs of the last days concerning family?
The family's falling apart.
The family's falling apart, but in the very last days, if you read your conference talks, it says, and in the scriptures it also says that women will not be, they won't be having children. Won't be having children. And we kind of thought that was abortion. That's abortion where you just, that's part of it. It's not all of it. That's part of it. And the other part is, you hear about more and more where they talk about we're last days, but I'm talking about the last days, like the last few seconds of the last days, that righteous people of the world will flock and want to be in the communities of the Mormons, because that's where there will be safety, and that's where there will be standards and the things that they will seek. Have you heard that? Am I just making it up? It's true. I'll bring you the conference talk on it. But anyway, it says that they will flock to be with the communities in Zion. It will attract righteous people of the earth. Now, listen to this. This is from this book. Enter I-genders, these I-generation, as they become parents. Now we're talking not your family. You're going to be the accepted. You're going to be, hopefully, that oasis that they're going to want to come to. But it says they are taking the path that may permanently redefine adult relationships and families. And because of what they are doing, it says, by the time the I-Jenners have children of their own, the way the nation interacts with religion will look quite different. So we are not even going to have, not only not religion, will they cease to be religious, but because they cease to be religious, they will cease to want families. They'll want to live together, but not have children. And so the birth rate has already started way down. And as it continues to go, and these people just don't want responsibility, this is the first time I really saw how fulfillment of that prophecy would be, it could happen, could really happen. And in a way, it just excites me, because it's coming, the end's coming. He's coming, he's coming. And but we've got to have our families be strong, to be ready for him, because he is coming. And we want to be there. And we want to be able to welcome him, and we want to be able to welcome him with our families. I testify to you that we have got to learn to intentionally parent. And we have got to create that attachment and connection. And we do it through spending time and listening to our children. So your homework, here's your homework. I want you to create a mission statement, or the beginning, or the outline, or talk about it. I want you to practice listening. So when your children come and talk to you, even if they're in trouble, I want you to ask 3 questions before you correct them. Not demeaning questions, not questions to put them in an emotional corner, but questions about how they're feeling, or what are they thinking, or what's going on before you. I didn't say you can't discipline them, I just said before. And number 3 is I have a conference talk I want you to read. And this one is by Dallin Oaks, President Oaks. It's called Parents and Children, and it's in November 2018, which is this ensign.
2001.
It's this one. It's called Parents and Children by Dallin Oaks, November of 2018. So those 3 things are your homework assignments.
Okay, so you have to say it one more time.
This one,
Yeah.
it's Parents and Children by Dallin Oaks, and it's 2018. Okay? Are you overwhelmed? Jenny, just work on your questions. Anybody have anything that if you're just overwhelmed, do you think you can do it? I know you can. You just got to get started. I'm excited to be back in class. I'm excited to have you here. I testify to you. The family is the unit of the celestial kingdom. And if we want to be there with Heavenly Father and His family, we've got to learn how to make connections in our families. And we can do it. We can do it. And we can be different than what's out there. And we have, by creating connection, our children will be happy to be different than what's out there. And I testify to you that's true. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Jen?